Good evening, and welcome to the 34th edition of the LIVRESQ Empower Your Teaching webinar. This is a webinar dedicated to LIVRESQ and to learning more about LIVRESQ and the updates we make or different features. We go in depth at exploring some of the things LIVRESQ can offer. And tonight's topic is really interesting because we will go through some LIVRESQ native resources, so native ways to make content in LIVRESQ. We say native because it's LIVRESQ also offers you the possibility to bring apps from outside of LIVRESQ and to add them to your work, to the materials you create with our tool. But this time we'll only be talking about little apps that you can find inside LIVRESQ and that you can use inside LIVRESQ. So I'll share my screen inside the author. By the way, we've brought some updates today, some really interesting updates in terms of just a second. Some really interesting updates in terms of the resources area. So the place where you can organize your material. You can now search through your materials over here. I say materials because they can either be projects, they can be resources of different types. So you have a search bar now. You can search by type. This bar used to be here before as well, but it used to be located on the left-hand side. So we moved it slightly to the middle, hopefully making this area more intuitive. It also works if you have a premium account, a paid account. It also works with shared by me and shared with me. So you can look through projects through that you've shared with other people and that other people have shared with you. You can use the search bar in the same way. Labels and shared with we had before, but now we basically moved everything so that it's easier to find. The way I'm going to show you these resources tonight is on an empty project. So just a quick reminder, in LIVRESQ we can create projects, and projects have sections, one or more sections, and inside each section we add what we call resources, and the resources are the bits and pieces of content, images, text, the topics of tonight, but also other types of interactive resources. So everything you add to a section, and that section will be part of a project. So the way I'm going to work, just so that I can show you these resources better tonight, is by starting with a new empty project. There are other ways, and this is a disclaimer in case this is the first time you're watching a webinar on LIVRESQ. There are other ways, and usually these ways are more simple to work with LIVRESQ. If you have a paid account, you can create an entire project using artificial intelligence, and we have previous webinars where we demonstrated how to do this step by step. And we also have a lot of templates that you can browse and explore and use. So it's really easy. You don't have to start from scratch. However, just so that I can show you these resources, these little applets, if you will, step by step, I'm going to go into an empty project. And empty means that it has one section. All LIVRESQ projects have to have at least one section. We'll enter that section using a double click, and this is our edit mode. And in edit mode, we'll see that there's just one text here that tells me what to do. This text can be edited, deleted, anything you want to do with this text, but it's not supposed, I mean, it's only here to tell you how the platform works. Otherwise, everything else is empty, and that's why I mentioned starting from scratch, from a completely blank canvas. All right. So the way we add different elements to LIVRESQ is using drag and drop. We drag an element from the left, and we can add structural elements. They don't have content, they're just part of a section structure. We can also add content. And some of these apps are what I'm going to talk about today, or resources. Again, in terms of terminology, you can use whatever makes more sense to you. We call them resources, and there are ways essentially to add content to your material. First of all, though, in order to add content, I'm going to add a structural unit. In this case, one row with two cells. And in each of these cells, I'm going to start adding resources one by one and to see exactly what we meant by making text and images more interactive. Because texts and images tend to be the bits of content that are very often used everywhere, not only in interactive digital materials, but also in materials that we print out in books. And it's really revealing to sort of make that, because we're now talking about an app that can make your content more interactive. We might still have to have text, of course. Images are also an important part of any digital lesson or any digital e-learning piece of content, but I'm going to show you ways in which to have the student or the learner click, make some clicks and interact with these pieces of information. Otherwise, the text and images, so I have added a text and also an image here. They're static, they're standard, we just double click and we edit them, but in view mode, so to see, and this is the mode where we can see what a learner ultimately sees, nothing is interactive. If we click, nothing happens. They just show information. I'm going to add another row with 2 cells and start adding interactive ways to present the pieces of information, essentially. So I'm going to add a gallery first of all. A gallery is one way to present more images or to add more images to your project. And what the learner or the student can do is browse these images using the side arrows, or they can just swipe if they're on a mobile device, for instance, or a touchscreen device. I'm going to hide this top bar here. The reason why we have this top bar in LIVRESQ is so that the learner sees that there is an interactive piece of content here. Sometimes we can even add an instruction to this top bar or just a title. The instruction can be added inside the edit mode using the help message. So let's just say I just want to show you this very quickly, and then we'll move on to how to actually edit the gallery. Use the arrows to navigate inside the gallery or to look at more pictures. And the way this works, we'll go into view mode again to see. I have the stop bar with a title or whatever I want to call my piece of content. And then my help message is displayed once the learner hovers their mouse over this question mark. And that's how it works. In case, for instance, you add images where maybe the arrows are not very visible. So this is useful. Of course, you can add instructions to a material even as static text, for instance. If you want to hide this resource status bar altogether, you can also do this. And now it's just the gallery. And again, to edit the content of the gallery, we'll double click the resource. We'll see that instead of just one picture, we have 3 pictures. Each of these pictures can be changed either with an image that you upload from your computer or with a stock photo. We have access to 3 sources for stock photos. You can use search terms in multiple languages. I know that it works obviously with English, but it also works with Romanian quite well. And I think Spanish, French, and generally international languages are covered and automatically translated quite well. These are the 3 sources that you can browse. You can also change the direction of the results. And bear in mind that usually when you enter a search term here, there are multiple pages of results. And stock photos, as we all know, are images that have no copyright laws attached to them, so you can use them confidently in all of your materials. In order to choose one of these images, we will hover the mouse over our image of choice, and then this little button pops up, and we can choose the resolution of the image. And of course, this will change according to where we want to use our images. We might not need them very large. We might just need medium images. And for instance, for this gallery, I'll just choose this one. This is its resolution. And what I did is change the first picture in the gallery. We also have another picture here, and then a third picture here that can be changed using the same method. If I don't need all 3 of them, I can remove an element using this icon here. If I want to add a new element, then I can just use the blue button to add a new element and add as many pictures as I want. This might be an exaggeration. I'm sure there are some limitations there, but you can add more pictures to your gallery. One thing to bear in mind, however, is the fact that their resolution, their size actually, or their orientation needs to be similar because the gallery will automatically resize according to the largest picture. So if we have one picture in portrait mode and then one picture in landscape, then the gallery will appear longer because even when displaying the landscape, and I'll show you in a second. So if we go to stock photos, and maybe we can find something in a portrait orientation, and this works. We'll have the medium image. Let's see. If we go back to the section, we see that we now have this blank space over here up at the top and at the bottom. Because if we go into view mode and we use the arrows to navigate, this space, when the platform reaches the portrait image, this space is automatically filled by the rest of by the image that's in portrait mode. But there is nothing to fill it with when we're displaying a landscape picture. So it will automatically resize according to the largest picture. Our recommendation is to use images that are of the same orientation and even similar size so that you don't get this blank space around it. The gallery is created to adapt to the largest resource because it needs to be interactive and it needs to be responsive on all devices, and that's one of the main uh, requirements, or that's one of the main points that we make when we create materials in LIVRESQ, the fact that everything you create is responsive and can be 100% interactive on any device that it is accessed on. So if your students, if your learners use a mobile phone to look at the materials you create, they will be fully responsive and they will adapt to the screen size. And that's why the gallery sort of has the size as well. And it automatically takes the size of the largest or the longest image. Right. So besides the gallery, which essentially is a simple resource, it just allows us to show more pictures, but it also adds this interactive element of browsing through the pictures. So the user is no longer sitting back and just maybe scrolling through content or just looking at content. They're doing something. They have some control. Another really handy resource for images, and then we'll move on to text or resources where, by the way, we can add images as well, but they're more oriented towards text, is hotspots. Hotspots is one of my favorite resources because what it allows us to do is map an image. So we can show different things on different types of images, and we can offer learners and students more information about a certain bit of an image. I'll hide the resource bar again for this resource, and we'll enter into edit mode. This is a bit more complex in terms of editing, but hopefully I'll make it all very clear because what this allows me to do, again, I'll just go into view mode very quickly, is show something on a point in the image, and then I can find out more information once I click on that bit of the image. So I need, first of all, two elements. I need an image, and then I need what we call a marker or the actual hotspots. Hotspot, well, more like. So these are the two elements that I have here. When I select one of them, I can edit them on the right-hand side, and I can also add new elements from the left, just like in the section. So I can drag and drop an image from here. I can drag and drop a marker from here, a rectangle if I need to add blank space, or text. But these are secondary. Essentially, we need an image and we need to be able to show things on that image. To change the image, we select it, and on the right-hand side under Properties, we have the possibility to change the image with the same two options as in the gallery or any other type of image you add in LIVRESQ. So you can either upload a file or you can search through stock photos and you can upload a file there. Now, no matter what I choose, let's go with this one. I'll use a larger resolution, although that might not be necessary. The image is displayed like this initially, but I can resize it using this little square here. I can resize it and then reposition it inside my resource. And this is how you edit the image. You can also use geometry to change the position or the size of the image. This is not geometry, it's just how large, what the resolution is. You can add other effects on it, but essentially all you need is this image and adding it to the resource. And then, since I want to map out to show things on this image, I can add markers. I already have one. And the marker itself is made up of a hit zone, a focal point, and the actual label or marker. Actually, this is the label. All of these can be moved around and customized. Now, the hit zone is the place where the user will click and the label will be activated. So you've noticed in view mode that once I click on the label or the hit zone, this label opens up and we get more content. You can define how big this hit zone is. The focal point is automatically placed in the middle of the hit zone, but this can be changed by unchecking this box here. So I can select and I can now move the focal point wherever I want, or I can leave it in the center. And if you want to show an element, then I suggest you just resize this and move it to encompass that element. And then we have the actual label. We can place it wherever it makes sense on the image, and then we can change the content of the label on the left-hand side. It's the same as for the image. So here I can write flower, and then in the hidden content or the content that becomes interactive, so the student clicks on the flower or on the label, and this is the content that will be displayed, we can write details about flower or whatever, about a flower or the flower, doesn't matter. So just more information that will be revealed once they click. We can leave it with one marker, or we can add another marker, either again by dragging and dropping a marker and moving it around, defining the same areas again, or we can duplicate this one. Sometimes it's easier to duplicate because maybe we've made some settings and it's easier to duplicate like that. In view mode, this will work in the same way. We click on the flower or we click on the label and more information is revealed. This is the classical way to create hotspots, but we have another layout. So if you want this to look different, you can go with a minimalistic layout. And this will just show the marker in the middle of our hit zone. And in view mode, I want to view it in the context of the entire project. Once you click on the label, once you click on this little dot here, the label is displayed underneath. So maybe you want it to be slightly different, or maybe you want everything on the image. If you have too many labels though, they might overlap and they might not be that clear. So maybe this is a more efficient way to create it. Once again, the way you change the layout is by not selecting either an image or a marker. So if you click on the image, you select the image and you have the properties for the image here. If you click on the marker, the properties for the marker will appear here. I need to deselect both of them, so I'll just click somewhere where it's white on the screen. And here I have the properties for the entire resource, and I can change the layout as well as some other settings here. All right, so this is mainly what we can do with images. You can add images in other places in LIVRESQ. You can add them as thumbnails for videos, even when you take the video from some other place. You can add GIFs as well as images. So you can add JPEGs, PNGs, and GIFs. So if you want moving images, that works. You can add them 100%, no restriction there. You can also add images to quizzes, add images to multiple resources, and we'll see that in a minute. We won't go into quizzes, however. But because my main focus tonight was to show you how to make images interactive, not how to add images to different resources. So these are the two main ways. We either add more images in a gallery so we don't display them one under the other, or we can map out images by using the hotspots resource. Now we can drag and drop another row to talk a little bit about text. Typically, these meetings don't run very long, so it's just a little bit longer so that I can show you two resources and then we can take questions. Or, by the way, I did not mention this at the beginning, if you're watching a recording of this, and I know that that's often the case since time differences matter for this webinar. If you're watching a recording, you can always leave a comment either on Facebook or on YouTube and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you're watching us live, you can either write in chat or turn on your microphone if you're on Zoom and ask me questions. All right, so two resources for making text more interactive are the accordion and the tabs. So we have 1, 2. The way both of these resources work is by using click. So by clicking, the user, the learner, the student, sorry, the learner or the student can reveal more information. In the case of the accordion, we don't see any information. We have them like this. For the case of the tabs, we have some information. So the first tab is automatically open. It's like in a browser. And then we can add more information for each of these titles. Editing works very similar. So if we double click on accordion, we can see that we have 3 items where we can change the title and the content. If we want to delete one of the items, we can. We can also add more items by using the plus button. The good part about this is that whenever we want to edit any of these text boxes, either for the content or for the title, we have access to the full text menu, the text editing menu in LIVRESQ that allows us to also add images, but also add tables and scientific formula variables and a lot of other options. Actually, the previous webinar was dedicated to this text editing menu, so I offer a lot of details there. But you can just add content. I've seen this used a lot, maybe in materials that you use synchronously during class where the title is a question and then the answer to the question is revealed by using plus. Of course, more information is revealed by using plus. In resources for children, an image is revealed by clicking I say plus, but it can either be the actual plus or the title. So anywhere you click on this title row, it will work. And if we go into editing for the tabs, it works in the exact same way, except bear in mind that the first tab will always be open. We cannot have them completely hidden. And again, you add a title and then you add the content. Same menu, same, and not really endless, but the same very wide range of possibilities in terms of content that you can add here. We remove an item and we add another item and customize everything. A cover image to a blank project. We've just received a question. Could you please show me how to add a cover image to a blank project? It depends on what you mean by cover image. So this is inside the project. However, before you open a project, for instance, in the LIVRESQ library, we have a metadata page, and this works in an LMS as well. Can't find any Romanian lessons on the first page, but doesn't matter. So this is before we open the project that this teacher created, and there's the image here. This image is edited from the metadata menu, and we add the image over here. So it's inside the metadata. This will not be displayed in the project unless we add it to the project as well, but it will be displayed on this page that appears in the LIVRESQ library before we open a lesson. Or if you add your material to an LMS, it will be displayed in the LMS. That's why we offer the possibility to add a cover image. So the same menu, we can either choose from a file from our own computer or upload a stock photo. If you want to just add a picture on top, and so I don't really know if there's another type of cover you were looking for. Was this okay? Because indeed, I mean, if you mean, okay, perfect. So the cover in the metadata. Otherwise, in the menu here, we can also add what we call a hero image here. And if you have a premium account, a paid account, you can add your own logo at the bottom of the menu. So this is another way to add more images. In this case, we just select an image, it will always appear on the top of the menu. So you can even customize that. And that's inside the project. The metadata image is will appear in the LMS or in the LIVRESQ library. Thank you as well for your question. So if there are other questions, please let me know. I hope this was revealing and that you've learned interesting things. And again, I'll remind you that we added a little bit of a change here in the resources area where we actually moved the search bar. Everything you create in LIVRESQ is automatically saved in the resources area. Everything will appear there. It's now easier to look for your projects and to look for your work. Okay. Thank you so much for coming, for your participation. If you're watching a recording of this, again, you can leave your comments in or questions in the comments. I will see you back here in 2 weeks. So we do this webinar bi-monthly on Thursdays at 6 p.m. CT. It was lovely to see you. Thank you for your participation. I'll see you again in 2 weeks.